Welcome back to Faith, Love, and Therapy, a podcast to encourage and inspire. I am your host, Jamie Johnson, a clinical social worker working in the field of mental health for the last 10 years. I believe this podcast is God-inspired and God-led. Thank you for joining me as we continue to peel back the layers of mental health from a faith perspective. So first, don't forget to connect with me on social media platforms. You can reach me Faith, Love, and Therapy Podcast on Instagram. That's Faith, Love, and Therapy Podcast on Instagram. And then on YouTube, we're at Faith, Love, and Therapy. Also, if you want to send me an email, a question, your thoughts, faithlovetherapy@gmail.com. That's one word, faithlovetherapy@gmail.com. I want to say a big thank you to Inner Circle Incorporated in Hampton, Virginia, where I am blessed to be working, but also where I'm able to continue recording these podcasts. So I'm greatly appreciative of Inner Circle in Hampton, Virginia. So thank you all. Thank you so much. So today, the topic, which I plan to carry out over the next, a total of 3 episodes, we're looking at the topic of where mental health and faith collide. And it's kind of really the central theme of this podcast, but going to break off in different areas in the future. But right now, I really want to focus on that and kind of hone in on some things. And my desire is to walk you through a particular intervention over the course of the next couple of episodes that I really want you to take time to do in order to really begin a process of working through healing some things that are still affecting us as a body of believers. So just my thoughts to start with. So I believe that many of you that are listening you recognize that we're in a season where people are more receptive to mental health issues, and they are expressing more value in therapy or therapeutic process, going to therapy, whether it's short-term or long-term. We're seeing that become more acceptable in the church. So the change could be contributed to an increased awareness within the body, but also within the church leaders that are now acknowledging the importance, even in their own mental health. And really starting to see that the strategy or the conversations about praying it away specifically have not necessarily been as effective as maybe generations prior to us seem to believe. So I recognize that that's one perspective, but also I think that there probably is a connection where there were less resources regarding mental health for generations prior to us. So I'm not condemning any generations before us. I think that as we are growing, as we are seeing the need of people and really becoming focused on the need of people, we have to acknowledge the mental health needs within the church, within our nation, just with everyone. Mental health is something that everyone needs to address. So in recent years, mental health issues of spiritual leaders have kind of taken a front seat, and there have even been reports of some ministers taking their own lives, and many really wondering what happened. I remember reading a couple of articles about a couple of different ministers who had taken their lives and a history of depression that they dealt with. And so, with the push to kind of normalize mental health, we're seeing a rise in mental health professionals and others that may not necessarily be professionals, but they're offering tidbits and offering nuggets of information to the masses. So I don't know about you, but I will find a new TikTok or Insta reel almost daily with some mental health or something related to anxiety or something related to codependence or unhealthy relationships or healthy relationships. I can go through several of those per day. So some of them have been really helpful. Others may need a bit more resource or explanation, but I'm super happy that there is a willingness to be more forthcoming about mental health and a desire to learn to be mentally and emotionally well. So I'm excited that it's more visible and that there is a push. I do at times find myself concerned that there are many that are kind of mislabeling themselves and possibly taking pride in a diagnosis. And it's nothing to be ashamed of, but there's a different type of inflection that's happening with some people. If this does not apply to you, understand that I'm not talking about you. But there are some that are kind of taking pride in a diagnosis rather than really taking the time to identify the need or the area of focus of treatment, that this is something I need to address or I need to work through, not this is why I do what I do. In practice, I've seen, some even kind of looking for a diagnosis when they come in for assessment, for whatever reason. It could be that they're trying to prove that there's a reason that they're not meeting their expectations or others' expectations of them, or even, trying to connect certain behaviors and some of their choices to a diagnosis. So I will say that the number of those just kind of searching for a diagnosis is far less than those who are really in for the process of treatment and becoming better mentally. So an issue that continues to sadden me is how I've seen many Christians struggling to identify their mental health needs without condemnation, or even, minimizing their symptoms because of their relationship with God or their relationship or position within the church. And I think, some of the stereotypes of Christians, along with some misinformation, or even bad doctrine at times, have led to a resistance in even calling things like abuse, trauma. Certain words are not used. I don't want to say that I was abused. I don't want to think that that's trauma because my life could have been worse. Or even, being dismissive of certain symptoms when they've had, maybe a diminished mood or a low mood for 3 to 6 months, and they're having crying spells and they are unable to sleep, or their appetite is, affected, where they are experiencing a myriad of symptoms, but in session do not want to call it depression because of what that would imply about them or possibly imply about their faith. So that is something that continues to sadden me, and I'm hoping that this emphasis on mental wellness helps those in the body of Christ to be willing to accept some things that they've experienced have affected them mentally and emotionally. And it doesn't mean that they have they've walked away from, believing in God or not trusting God. So that is something that I continue to see. I recall kind of hearing this tone of, maybe church elders or those that are more seasoned may say things like, God's got you, don't worry, God has it under control. And how rarely how to do that or how God has us was explained or explored at that time. And so for many young and even some older Christians, God having me, God, someone telling me God's got it, to me means, okay, don't worry about it. And while I think that is a valid conversation, because worrying does not help us, worrying does not help or heal anything, but neither does the vagueness in those one-liners that just kind of dismiss the depth or the severity of an issue that a believer may be experiencing. So here is where I believe faith and mental health collide. So I believe that it collides in one of the most central themes that we'll find in the Bible, which is to change your mind, to change your thinking, to change your perspective. And so for many, the initial thought that comes up when I say change your thoughts or change your mind is Romans 12:2, and it which says, "And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." So even when we talk about the call of repentance, it's a call to change from the inside out. These scriptures to me, indicate a lot of inner work that must be done. And while God is able to do the suddenlies, like God is able to change it in a moment, when we understand who God is and how he operates, we recognize that things in this life are a process. Even renewing, the word renewing has ing on it, which indicates a process, ongoing. In the process, we must acknowledge what we have experienced and what behaviors or beliefs or perspectives might need to be unlearned. It requires unpacking. It requires reassessment. It requires an understanding of so much that has occurred. And the word often tells us, or we read in the word, in all thy getting, get an understanding. We can't just emphasize wisdom and knowledge without knowing that we need an understanding, one, of Jesus, but two, of ourselves. We are comprised of so many different things, whether it's genetically or whether it's our experiences that have affected, influenced, altered our perspective. So what I want to help you with is to begin to take a deeper look and to get a better understanding of yourself, And so I want to encourage, to start this process of personal assessment using a Lifeline tool. I may have mentioned it sessions back. A Lifeline tool is something that I may use in initial assessments with clients to help them begin unpacking. So I want to walk you through a Lifeline intervention. So this is a good time to get a pen and paper. You'll need more than one sheet of paper. You may need a long sheet of paper. But you'll definitely need several sheets of paper. You could use a notebook, but be prepared to do a lot of writing. And you can do this over the course of a few days. This isn't something that you need to rush. So on the paper, we're going to explore periods of your life. And I want you to start by breaking down your years. So you're going to do it in increments of 5. So 0 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, and so on, up into your current age. So increments of 5. You're going to be asking yourself the following questions for each of those years. I want you to ask the question to yourself. I want you to sit with the question, and I want you to write everything that comes to thought. It may not come to your thoughts in a particular order, but I want you to write everything that comes to your mind over the course of working through this particular intervention. Take your time on this. This isn't something that you need to do in one day because you'll remember things, days later. So really allow yourself to sit with it. So there are four main questions that I want you to utilize over the Lifeline. And again, you're asking for every period of time, every 5 years. So the first question I want you to ask yourself is, what memories come to mind? So when I think of, my earliest memory, and don't be concerned if you think, okay, I can't think of something when I was 3. That's fine. If you can't think of memories for a particular period of time in your life, then just put, I can't recall anything for that period of my life. But I want you to ask first, what memories come to mind between this age range? Sit with that. Write out all of those memories that come to mind. I'm going to take a sip of water because I'm talking a lot. Okay. I want you to write out every memory that comes to your mind during that period of time. You don't have to, some people don't like writing out all the details, but I think details are important. But write enough that it makes sense and that you understand the depth of that particular memory. So do that for every age range. The next thing I want you to ask yourself is, what did I think about myself, or how did I feel about myself between that particular age range? So from 6 to 10, what do I remember feeling specifically about me? What do I remember thinking about me? There's a period of time where we really think, when we're young, we really think we're amazing. When we're young, we have probably the most confidence that we ever have in our lifetime, because we don't know any different, and we haven't had experiences that kind of have altered that in ways. So I want you to ask yourself, what did I think about myself? How did I feel about myself during this period of time of my life? That's the second question. The third question is, what pain or hurt or challenges did I experience? And this could be physical or emotional. This could be a physical pain, trauma. This could be emotional. This one, I do want to caution you, because a lot of times we have pushed things so far down specifically our pain, that when it's time to access it, we have an emotional response. Some of us have a physical response to recalling things that impacted us negatively. So take your time with this. If it's hard to write these out, or it's hard to allow yourself to think about it, then give yourself a break. But I want you to come back to it, because that indicates that it is something that definitely needs addressing, definitely needs to be processed. So that's the third question. What pain, hurt, or challenge did you experience during that particular period of your lifetime? The fourth question and final question is, what made me happy, or what did I take pride in? So what did I enjoy during this time? When I think of 0 to 5, probably earliest memories, I enjoyed being outside. I want you to write that down. I enjoyed playing with dolls. I enjoyed going to the store, when I was 7 with my mother. I enjoyed those rides in the car. It doesn't have to be, don't overthink it. But remember some of the things that made you smile when you were little. Remember some of the things that you couldn't wait to do when you were little. Think of then when you were, a teenager, and then on and on and on until your current age. What are the things that made you happy? What are the things that you took pride in or take pride in? And again, these are 4 questions that I really want you to sit with. I really want you to allow yourself to go deep with. I really want you to write out. And I want you to write something for every period of time that we broke up, for every 5-year increment. My desire is to go a bit deeper with you, but I want you to begin the process. So I just want to introduce this today in hopes that you will really sit with this over the next week or 2. In the next episode, we're going to go a bit deeper in these 4 questions, and in hopes to reveal some things that will help you on your process to healing. So I thank you. I thank you for joining me on this episode of Faith, Love, and Therapy, and I'll see you next time.